On July 31st, Secretary Rubio announced U.S. sanctions against Brazilian Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, who used his position to authorize arbitrary pre-trial detentions and undermine freedom of expression. Moraes abused his authority by engaging in a targeted and politically motivated effort to silence political critics through the issuance of secret orders, compelling online platforms, including U.S. social media companies, to ban individuals for posting protected speech. As Secretary Rubio stated on X, our actions are a warning to those who are trampling on the fundamental rights of their citizens, and judicial robes cannot protect you. Turning to the Indo-Pacific, the White House announced that the United States has reached a full and complete trade deal with the Republic of Korea. This agreement, as the Secretary is meeting today with ROK Foreign Minister Cho Hyun, reflects the unwavering strength of the U.S.-ROK alliance, which has served as the linchpin of peace, security, and prosperity on the Korean Peninsula and in the Indo-Pacific for more than 70 years. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, the State Department reported to Congress that the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO, and Palestinian Authority, PA, are not in compliance with their commitments under the PLO Commitments Compliance Act of 1989 and the Middle East Peace Commitments Act of 2002. In response, the United States is imposing sanctions that deny visas to PLO members and PA officials in accordance with Section 604A1 of the Middle East Peace Commitments Act. These actions reflect our national security interests and our commitment to holding the PLO and PA accountable for undermining the prospects for peace. On the humanitarian front, the United States is providing $52 million to the World Food Program to deliver emergency food assistance from American farmers and producers to people in need in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Haiti, and Djibouti. Under this new award, WFP will distribute 12,702 metric tons of food, yellow split peas, rice, vegetable oil, and Super Cereal Plus from our pre-positioning warehouses in Houston and Djibouti to support than 1.9 million vulnerable people. The United States is the largest donor of humanitarian food assistance globally, and the department continues to call on other donors to provide additional contributions to address global humanitarian needs.
On the sanctions on the Brazilian Supreme Court judge just mentioned, what is the State Department position to the main reason that led to the sanction announced by the Department of Treasury? What did the U.S. find as the main threat?
Well, look, Moraes is an activist judge that abused his authority by engaging in a targeted and politically motivated effort designed to silence political critics through the issuance of secret orders compelling online platforms, including U.S. social media companies, banning the accounts of individuals for posting protected speech. Moraes further abused his position to authorize unjust pretrial detentions and undermine freedom of expression. The actions taken by Moraes impact U.S. persons and companies, and the United States does not tolerate malign foreign actors who abuse their positions of authority to undermine freedom of expression of American citizens. Again, the Biden administration found the PLO not in compliance and decided not to take any action, and the PLO remains in non-compliance. This is the first report that we have had under this administration. That's why we're seeing this action taken, this biannual report. And it's important that we're vocal about this. We're outlining the reasoning behind it as we have. And it's an important issue here. We're identifying this noncompliance and choosing to take action.
Said that they intend to recognize Palestinian statehood in September. And the second one, when should we expect the biannual compliance report on Israel's compliance? I assume that's the same time schedule as the Palestinian assessment?
Well, I'll say on this one, and I'll refer to my earlier answer in terms of the fact that this is biannual review. This has been, therefore, in process. The review period ended in January 2025. Yes. Yes.
Sorry, but you didn't answer the first one. Or say, so does that mean the Israel one is complete? And the U.S. found no violations?
Well, what I can speak to is this report here. That's what I can speak to. And again, the fact that the Biden administration found compliance, chose not to take any actions. Non-compliance, chose not to take actions. We also found non-compliance and chose to take action.
But on it's not in retaliation. These sanctions, they have nothing to do with the statehood.
This question. This is part of a biannual review.
2 days or a couple of days after the UN conference at the UN on the Palestinian statehood. And the push of many allies, U.S. allies, France, UK, Canada, for Palestinian state.
Well, look, to stress, this is a biannual review that happens twice a year in every single year. And this report refers to the review period that ended in January 2025. So in terms of the timing of this report, this is a biannual report provided to Congress, and that's being provided here. It is the first report being provided under this administration. So in terms of timing, that's the timing, and that's why we're seeing this report now. In terms of specific individuals, outlined in the media note in terms of the policy, one of the many policy options that were available that is being implemented. I don't want to get into specific cases because ultimately, per the report, there is an opportunity for a case-by-case basis consideration for a waiver. And so we saw the media note outlining certain policy implications, the actions that were taken, but ultimately this is a case-by-case, or there is that option for in terms of a visa.
Follow up to that, you, for example, for Brazil, for the Supreme Court judge, you didn't have any problems naming him and saying who it was. But in this case, you're not naming anybody. And could you give us a sense as to what level they are? How many people are we talking about?
Well, so the sanctions will impose denial of visas for PLO members and PA officials. And again, to stress, a waiver may be considered on a case-by-case basis consistent with our national security interests. Yes.
Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate it. You said you were going to take a few more questions on this.
I'll take two more on this specific topic.
Yeah.
Broader region for sure, but on this specific one.
So on that one, specifically, the previous administration engaged with Palestinian Authority to find a solution for the future governance of Gaza. And that administration and Trump administration also said Hamas has no place in Gaza's future, a position that is widely shared by many other countries in the world. How does this action specifically impact Trump administration's ability to engage with PA? Maybe it doesn't impact it at all. Can you help us understand that? And were there any heads up given to Arab states about this action? Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to speculate on what it will look like going forward, but what I can say is that the Biden administration in this biannual review also found them in noncompliance. They chose not to take certain actions. This is the first report of this biannual review that is under this current administration. And we decided to take one of a few actions that were available in terms of once we identified the noncompliance. That is what this indicates. There's nothing further to read beyond this report except for the report finding noncompliance, as well as saying we are taking that action in terms of certain restrictions. But I'm not going to speculate further beyond that.
And the Arab states?
I'm not going to preview private diplomatic discussions. Yes. Sorry, one more behind, and then we'll move on to a topic.
Thank you, Tom. Two things. Of course, I mean, some actions were taken against the PLO back in 2017. They shut off the office, they cut off all aid, and so on. So this is also during the first Trump administration. I wanted to ask you that the Israeli media is reporting that Israel is going to annex part of Gaza and that they have a green light from the United States of America. That's what the government claims, the Israeli government. And that is at a time when the envoy, Steve Witkoff, is meeting with the Israeli government, meeting with Netanyahu, what has been described as a very decisive meeting. Do you have anything to elaborate on this? Can you share with us what is he discussing? Is it going to be, are parts of Gaza going to be annexed?
Well, what I can say is what my colleague Caroline just spoke to. She spoke with the special envoy this morning. She outlined just a few minutes ago what the point of the meetings were, addressing the humanitarian issue, the situation that we are seeing, addressing next steps for Gaza. I have nothing further to add for her comments, but it is a clear indication that this administration is determined to getting as much aid as possible into Gaza without it being looted by Hamas.
But does this administration look favorably at annexing parts of Gaza?
Well, what we're focused on now is trying to address this conflict. We're trying to end this conflict. We are trying to get as much food into Gaza as possible. I'm not going to speculate or preview where these discussions may go. What I can say is what we've been focused on doing, what Caroline described just a few minutes ago, what we've been talking about here from this podium for many, many months. Ending this conflict, getting as much food into Gaza as possible where it is not being looted by Hamas.
U.S.-Iran negotiation. Iranian Foreign Minister Alaguchi told Financial Times that U.S. must agree on compensation before nuclear negotiation, since U.S. attacked Iran's nuclear sites. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, what I can say is that any demands for financial compensation from the United States to the Iranian regime are ridiculous. If the Iranian regime really wanted to save money or alleviate some of the sanctions policy, they would stop taking destabilizing actions. They would stop wasting money on their nuclear program. They would stop sending money to terrorist death squads across the region. They would stop oppressing their own people. So if they really wanted to save money or find a way towards prosperity for their people, they would start taking those actions. So any demands for financial compensation from the United States are ridiculous. But to stress, the United States is ready to talk with Iran. Iran has a short window of opportunity, but the ball is in Iran's court. So we're waiting to see what they do in terms of now it's in their court.
One meeting had been expected yesterday with the Saudi, UAE, and Egyptian foreign ministers here in the building. It didn't happen. Wondering if you could tell us about the reasons for the postponement, whether there's a date, perhaps around UNGA, for a replacement meeting, and whether that's a setback at all, that this has had to be postponed.
Well, no date was set in terms of a Quad meeting here, in terms of your first question. And we look forward to bringing the Quad together in the near future. We hope to set that date soon. But in terms of your last question, we continue to coordinate on our collective engagement. We continue to coordinate in terms of pursuing outcomes. That dialogue continues, and we are committed to supporting that dialogue that leads to peace and ends the suffering of the Sudanese people.
Can you clarify the U.S. position on the Sudanese armed forces in their future in a post-war transitional government? Because that seems to be a sticking point for a lot of the external actors. You know, I think Egypt in particular wants to see a role for them. Can you clarify what the U.S. position is? That a non-starter for you?
Well, I don't want to get into the details of dynamic diplomatic conversations. We think the best path to peace and stability is an immediate and durable cessation of hostilities. And we are in communication with as many partners, the Quad being one of them, but not limited just to the Quad, in order to try to accomplish that end.
The Brotherhood is reportedly being considered for the designation of terrorist organization by the administration. It was asked today in White House briefing as well. My first question is, organizations like Hamas emerge from the ideology of the Brotherhood. Does the State Department view the Muslim Brotherhood more as an ideology or as a structured, centralized organization? Second, where does it fall in terms of U.S. national security concerns?
Well, what I can speak to, again, is our view of Hamas and the fact that they have blocked peace, they have blocked ceasefire, they have been weaponizing aid against their own people, the fact that they are
I'm asking about Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah, so, but I can talk about in terms of, you mentioned Hamas, so I'm speaking to that.
Oh,
in terms of our broader, that's what I'm speaking to here. In terms of our broader policy, when we're looking at different groups in the region, let me take that back and see if we can get further details for you. But in terms of our view of Hamas, we've been very clear on that.
So the trade deals of 50%, and I'm reading an article from the Italian Corriere della Sera that says that the Italian Foreign Minister Tajani said that Europe couldn't do better than 50%, and that somehow they have to work on this number. But inside the Italian government, also in the European Union, there's some concern that because of the European will have to buy so much liquid gas, somehow the United States would have a leverage on Europe on foreign policy when, you know, as allies need to take decisions. So what would be the answer from the State Department to this?
Well, in terms of trade discussions, I refer you to the USTR.
In foreign policy, you know.
What I can say is that this is strengthening our relationship with our allies and partners in Europe. This is about strengthening our relationship with the European Union, but also bilaterally with different countries in Europe. That's what these agreements are doing through this rebalancing. And we saw that in conversations with the president when they were talking about this deal just when he was in Europe. That rebalancing, that was necessary in order to lead to those long-term, stronger relationships. So that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing in a lot of these deals that end up benefiting countries around the world. And it's, again, showing President Trump putting America first. But when we do that, we can find common ground and lead to benefits for everybody.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.